You're listening to the Lux Life Discovered podcast, where we talk with people who are living a lifestyle that reflects their passion, because we believe everyone should be living their best life, their Lux Life. The show is hosted by Rick Steiner with Steiner Event Group, a premier national event planning company, and co-hosted by Shannon Richmond, the Vice President of the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notifications of future episodes. The show is produced by 30A Media and is broadcast on your favorite podcast outlets, as well as YouTube, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TVs, and other major brand smart TVs.
Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome back to Lux Life Discovered. Shannon Richmond is my co-host today. So Shannon, always great to have you here.
Always great to be here
Good.
And hear all the exciting guests that you bring on.
I know, and we've got another return guest here, Todd Anthony Tyler. And when he was on before, we talked about him being a resident judge and photographer for Asia's Next Top Model. And this is a gentleman that just keeps adding to his portfolio and expanding. And so today we're going to talk about his public relation firm. So Todd, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much for having me back. Greatly appreciate it. Shannon, nice to see you again as well.
Remember the last time he was
excited to speak to you.
Yeah, vacationing in the south of France and had that beautiful background with the wind and the head. Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad to see you're in the studio in your office today. That's good.
Yeah, last time was maybe a little bit more attractive. Today's in the office.
No, we're just glad you're working. You're not traveling all the time to exotic locations. Yeah. No. So
I do have to actually work sometimes.
That's good. So tell me, okay, when I found out about you, you sent me the link to your public relation firm through website. I was surprised. I'm thinking, how in the world do you have time to add this to your plate with everything that you have going on? So kind of, bring us into that. Like, how did this evolve? And then we'll talk more about that.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I think, well, primarily that's just my entrepreneurial spirit that I just love to run businesses and do business, and probably a little bit of a fault of mine of not able to say no as well sometimes. But definitely the whole PR agency, social media bend to the agency, that's just a natural progression from what I've been doing already. And we see in part, of course, more of a demand for imagery required for social media and digital marketing. So that kind of shifts a little bit away from perhaps some of the more traditional types of photography shoots that were going on in the past, or was the core of what was going on in the past. And then, of course, pretty much you could say my entire life, I've been doing PR and social media in the respect of the companies that I run, in the respect of my own self and my career. So all those things just lent to this path of a natural progression to start to do that for other companies when people have come to me and asking me for help about it.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. And most people don't understand when you're self-employed, you are your PR. I mean, that's it, because you're selling yourself, and then everything else that you bring to the table, it's kind of like validation for what you said you'd be able to do, that type thing. So we're all PR people to some degree, whether we realize it or not. So it's just a matter of if we're effective PR for our company or we do more harm. Yeah, non-effective. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, that's very true, because anybody who's doing their own thing knows that you have to kind of get out there and blow your own horn a little bit, because that's how you're going to find customers. That's how you're going to find clients. And you're going to have to be able to get out and speak to some people. You can't really hide behind the computer the whole time. So, you're getting out there meeting, and just by the nature of the beast, you're doing PR already.
Right. It takes. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess also for me, it's just in the industries of fashion and with the fitness industry business, all those connections, they just come together for me to naturally PR other companies in the similar field.
Right. So what do you offer exactly with your PR firm? It's more than just the public relation part, because you can bring, like you said, the photography, videography, the whole concept, right?
Right. So definitely on the website, we have a long list of what we can do and do overall. Currently, we have 5 clients that we're working with and would like to expand on that, of course. I think the key thing that I've found so far is that regardless of the size of the company, influencer management or recruitment seems to be one of the most challenging aspects. And that's like a good 1 hour conversation why that might be. But I
Right.
can just say that also being a little bit on the influencer side in the first place, I understand both sides of the situation, what companies need, what influencers need, and that time that's required to develop the rapport with the influencer, find the right influencer for that company, and make sure that influencer actually delivers on what they say they're going to do with the product or promote the product or create the content that they say they're going to create. That's super time consuming. And I find that's one of the main aspects that we're doing for companies right now.
That's a good point, bringing the influencers in, because that has to be one of those tasks that it's either rewarding or you want to pull your hair out, because how do you determine the level of who is a true influencer and what do they really bring to the table? Is that, would you describe, is that accurate?
Yeah, that's really accurate, I find. Uh, this is a There's so much going on in social media, so many things changing so quickly as well. But just in a snapshot, of course, you can source influencers on quite a few platforms now. Actually, a lot of model agencies switching to more so influencer management as opposed to straight up model management. So you can
Right.
find online. It still takes time, of course, to find the right people, but you can find online. But then it's the whole vetting process. Uh, do they truly have the numbers they say they have? Do they truly have the reach they say they have? Are they producing content that you really need or want? And what's the quality of that content? And then ultimately, with dealing with a few different companies now, unfortunately, being a little bit of the Wild West on this front still at this time, they're sending out product to people who are actually not delivering. So you need somebody who's following up, making sure that they've received the product. Yes, they're going to post and or create a video or image at this time. And yes, then we've had that user generated content that we can utilize with those companies. So it's I find anyway, the core of the whole influencer digital marketing aspect for a company, because those are the faces of your company. And then you need that content, which we traditionally did before with a photographer, videographer. Now they're kind of shifting a lot of that marketing content onto the influencer, who of course has their photographer and videographer. But that means that you're using that content to advertise. That's a very important aspect for a company.
Right. And that could be
That can make or break them, I bet.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Because I have a lot of conversations with company about return on investment. I find that one's a very big challenge to determine when you're dealing particularly with influencers, because everybody wants to give them a discount code. That's fantastic. I think that's a great thing. Everyone wants to be an affiliate. Also, I don't think a very bad thing. But I've found with my own personal experience and with other influencers, generating straight out income one for one, that you've given a product, they posted a video, they made a lot of money. That's really a hard line to follow. And a promise I would not want to give. I would say more so what you're doing is that you're developing brand recognition. People don't know about your products. I'm going to say everybody, but you go 45 and under, they're discovering products on social media now, not so much in conventional media. So you want your product out there for people to discover, and then you will have, and hopefully sales develop from that. But that point I'm trying to get to is you want brand recognition. If you want brand recognition, you need a lot of content. You need a lot of content, and you need a number of influencers to produce that content.
So how do you get your clients to understand that about brand recognition rather than like actual results right off the bat?
Honestly, I find that a super big challenge
Right.
because you're just a little bit, because you're going to find a lot of fast talking videos online telling you there's a guy that speaks or a woman that speaks like a mile a minute and goes da, 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 and this is going to happen and don't listen to this and then by the end they're trying to tell you that they can really make sales for
Increase your
you.
yeah.
I'm not going to say they cannot, but I just have had over 5 years experience in this directly now. And I know that's actually, it's difficult to have a direct line of just thinking you're giving somebody a product, paying perhaps a fee for them to develop the content, and now you're going to immediately track a sale. I don't see that. I see that what you're doing is you're developing brand recognition to hopefully then develop sales. And you still need in part that sales team, of course, which is using that recognition, using some of that content to do sales.
And don't you see, or have, in your case, have you seen where the ones that don't develop the brand recognition to go these other routes that supposedly give them instant return, they're not around in a couple of years, 3 years, because nobody recognizes the brand and they've been misled?
Yeah, again, I just always want to speak to my own experience. But I would just find, yes, in general, that's what I was saying earlier as well, the fast-paced nature of social media. That's the same with influencers. Hot influencers 3 years ago, maybe not as hot now. Maybe they burned out. Maybe they don't exist on the platforms anymore. Same with brands. It's a long-term, I think it's a long-term thing. You want to grow and scale your business. Part of that scaling of the business is brand recognition. Part of that brand recognition comes from social media where people discover you. And how do they discover you? Through videos and photos that are being produced by influencers, content creators. I think that's the key. And that's why I primarily focus on that. We do other things with the PR. We get, interviews, something similar like this, where we have people interviewed on podcasts or on written interviews. We do events. We do a number of other little things too. But that's why I focus so much on this with the social media, because I really find that's the core.
Okay. So when you work with a social influencer, what are some of your requirements to establish that connection? Because that would have to be tough, because you're giving that person a lot of trust and leeway to represent your brand and what you're doing.
A plus for me with my Todd Anthony Tyler PR and social media agency is that when I reach out to influencers, I have a very good return rate on the contact, because they're not with the verified social medias. With a quick Google of, hey, who's this Todd Anthony Tyler guy? I get confidence built in pretty much immediately in that cold DM or email that's sent out. So that's a big plus. And I just say that because, again, I know from the influencer side, there's a lot of scammy things going on. They try to get, they make a big thing. I just had this the other day. Apparently, Tom Ford wanted to work with me. So pretty exciting when you get that email.
Right. You're like, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then you see that it's tomford123@gmail.com, and you think, I'm pretty
not
sure
the Tom that I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of happens. It gets, to a lot of influencers as well, because there are some unfortunate sort of scam type things going on. So my point is that I have the verification and a Googleable enough name to put that initial faith into who is this person and contacting me. And so that's a great standing and starting point to then develop the relationship with the influencer.
Right. Well, that
for
makes
me
sense.
there, sorry.
Okay.
I was going to say that for me there, then I have to break down what we want from the influencer. Are we looking at, they have 100,000 followers, we have X amount of exposure? Are we thinking that they potentially will sell X amount of product with their code? Or are we just looking at, they have very nice content that works for this company. We're going to utilize that content for marketing and advertising, digital marketing and advertising for the company. What they do on their platform is just a plus. So you're looking at those kind of things, right?
Right.
If you're trying to look at the influencer as in, who are we working with here? How real is everything here? Then you start to dig a little bit deeper, look at their likes, look at their comments being a big one. You can tell the engagement of the comments and how people are responding.
Right. I can think of 3 businesses right now that years ago, when I used to represent a small group of models, who, when I contacted them about, potentially working with 3 of my clients there, the first thing they asked was, what was the number of followers? And that's the only thing they were interested in. I mean, they didn't care about the content. It was about the number of followers. 3 of these businesses are no longer in business because they went with that. And they thought if but then, you've got all the different avenues of like buying followers and all that now. So how many of the followers were really real to begin with? So that's, you're in a tough, I'm saying that because I respect that you would take this on, because with the influencers, with social media, but at the same time I'm saying this, you've used social media to kind of like validate a lot of your influence that you use and what you're doing. So it's kind of a two-edged sword here, sword a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I guess in part, like I stated from the beginning, why I sort of evolved into this direction, because I was kind of already doing that. I was doing that with the TV shows. I was doing that with the advertising of the shows. I think I might have lost you.
No, we're here. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
no,
Yeah,
okay. I just saw a blank screen there for a minute. I thought,
yeah.
I think I'm talking to myself.
No.
Um, yeah, so I was just saying that with the TV shows, I was already doing social media PR. They had some of their own teams, but I was involved in that. Of course, as we stated earlier, my own career with the TV shows or with the fashion photography career, always doing your own PR and marketing. Social media is just one of those aspects that I think even a lot of people still don't understand a lot about. Like you said yourself, oh, they've got 1 million followers, great. But then we
They'll
have to
sell
break that
products. Yeah.
down. Yeah, that 1 million followers, there's X amount that are probably not actually followers. And then even if they are a core amount of 1 million followers, how many of those followers
Will
are really
invest.
seeing your product because of algorithms, of how things work? It's increasingly complicated, it seems.
Yeah.
But as you can see how I'm talking about it, I'm kind of excited about it.
I know, and that's good because it's a big project to undertake, because there's so much to learn, so much that's been learned, but then so much to change, especially with AI. I mean, I'm sure that's had a big impact on what you're doing.
Exactly, and exactly what you're saying there. And I guess that's part of my excitement, is because it's so fast paced in general, trends changing weekly, monthly, certainly by the year. How those platforms work, who's on those platforms, and then when I take on new companies, of course, that's super exciting for me, because now I have a whole new team, a whole new product that we're going to get out there and promote and connect with the right influencers. Also, partially like what you said earlier, Rick, I have my own studio, so shooting photos and videos for these clients kind of combine. Uh, Not often, but sometimes I end up bringing in the influencers and shooting them myself. So that's how the whole TAT PR kind of ends up being a full service type of agency,
Right.
because of the background experience, the photography, the video, and the influencer all together for social media.
So, what type of company benefits from your services the most? Is there a certain type of company, certain product?
Yeah. So I would say at this time, almost obviously, maybe fashion companies, because that's my deepest reach from over 20 years of being in the fashion industry itself. Even the style of imagery that I produce leans towards a fashion direction. So typically fashion, but also fitness, in part because of being my own lifelong lifestyle. But as you're probably aware, I'm co-owner in a fitness clothing brand. So already have made a number of contacts and reach in that area. So tends to be fitness brands or fitness products, fashion brands. Those tend to be the core of what I do.
And your clients are international too, right? They're not just from one central area.
No, I think obviously the great thing about how we can speak to each other right now, being in different countries, even where we have the computer, we can work from. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be super local what you're doing. Maybe a little bit localized with some of the photography and video, but even there, I have clients sending me from Europe or from Asia product, and we shoot the product here. Not a
That's pretty cool.
problem.
Yeah.
It's pretty much an international operation in that sense. And then from there, yes, I have clients who specifically want to target Japan, specifically want to target United States or North America. We have at this point, after 5 years, lists and lists of influencers in each one of those markets that we already work with. So absolutely, we work with brands and companies globally.
Wow.
That's crazy. So if somebody said, okay, where do I start? What's the first thing you would tell them they need to do?
Talk to me.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, in part though, truthful answer, because I need to get a sense of what their goals are, because it really depends on the size of the company, the age of the company, as in where they're at in their growth overall as a company. Uh, yeah, it's a tough question, just in the sense I have to look at what they're doing already.
Okay.
Do they have social media? What numbers are they already doing? What has their social media team done in the past? At this time, I tend to work with a little more startups, it seems, primarily because they don't have much of a platform or none at all.
Which
And
is kind
then,
of nice because that way you're on the ground floor.
yeah, that is almost my preference, pretty much starting from zero, because then we set up the platforms for them. We generally speaking, populate the platforms with the content, get the influencers, get the product out there. It's a When you have that level of beginning, yes, that's almost, I would say, easier. Tougher because it's a new brand and nobody knows about it, but almost easier to find how the path we're going to take.
Yeah,
If
you
it's
don't
a
have to
more
erase all the
established
bad
company,
stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes like companies more established, we pretty much have to wipe out their social media that they have and start from zero. And or we just, look at their strategies, look what's worked, what hasn't worked, the people that they're targeting, and then try to hopefully take them in a more productive direction.
Yeah. And it's hard to get someone to, even if they know the path they're on is not working as efficiently as it should, it's still hard to get people to change sometimes.
Yes, it is absolutely. A lot of people just like that in life in general. Business wise, of course, you've had people working there for a long time. Uh, Maybe what they're doing didn't quite work out, but trying to bring somebody in new is not always pleasant for everyone. Uh, yeah, it's hard to change minds. And I think also there's this combo of lack of information and almost pseudo information about social media and how to do it. I mean, I still meet a lot of people who think, "Oh yeah, my son or daughter, they just do it. They play on the
Right.
phone all the time. They just play on the phone. They just, I mean, they just think it's that easy in a way. And I guess a lot of, especially a few older companies that I work with, wrapping their mind around how this is so important now for brand recognition and for people purchasing and just simply finding your brand and then following through to your website perhaps for e-commerce. Uh, it's really hard for them to wrap their mind around that because for years they've been using different types of media for running the company, and this new fad kind of idea, it takes them a lot to get into it.
Sure. So I know it's been a natural progression for you taking your years in the industry and converting into this, but when did you decide you wanted to do this on top of everything else you have going? Like,
Yeah, the honest answer is because combo. I guess. Oh wow, how far back do I go? If I right at the beginning with Top Model when they gave me a PR agent, and I think we discussed this perhaps before, I had no idea why I needed an Instagram account. Like what for? So like who needs Instagram? That was now obviously several years ago.
right.
But in that process, I've learned why we need these social media platforms for doing business in general, for being a recognized person. Uh, and then from there, I came on a little bit doing more with the TV shows, and that's how we advertised and promoted the TV shows. And then, most importantly, I guess, is I took on running the entire division for the Omni Sport clothing brand, uh, and ran and still run all of our social media from there. So this gave me a lot of experience starting to dig down deep on how all this works, just to even improve for my own self and for the company. So from there, that's what I think found like, wow, there's actually a lot going on here. I'm actually pretty interested in this. it kind of blends in with what I'm doing already. So let's just take this a little bit further. Combined, I guess, with companies just coming to me. They said, "Hey, Todd, I saw you're doing this with your company. Can you help us?"
Well, that's a great compliment there, because that means they're recognizing what you're achieving and want that same level of success as well.
Can you
Yeah,
believe
that's
how
always the
far
best.
things have come with social media versus having it and not having it?
Oh yeah. I
It's
mean, I can,
crazy.
and I don't know enough about it to really dig deep into all that part of it to use it like you're
what time
using
to
it.
send, algorithms,
Yeah.
all that. I'd be like,
I'm like, I just make a post.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's part of it though. That's just what you're saying there. It's some companies and their departments understand all those things. Some people walk away going, "That sounds great, but I have no idea what you just said." Um, and so those that I guess that's why I'm just saying that why I'm sort of excited about that, because there is still a lot of not understanding how this works, but it's still, and I don't think it's going away.
right.
Facebook maybe starts to go to Instagram, and Instagram starts to go a little bit to TikTok. And each generation seems to have their platform, but how we interact through media, digital media, I don't think that's going away.
And there may be a new platform coming that we're not even aware yet that may blow
Oh,
us out of the
absolutely.
water, that we'll be totally
Yes, yeah.
amazed with. Yeah.
I think history is just showing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah. All right. Well, Todd, we're going to put your information on the screen, tell people how to reach you and find out more about your public relations firm and what you can do for them.
All right. I appreciate that. Happy to have conversations with anyone. I just, regardless of where it goes, I just like to discuss it I even learn from other people, of course, in the conversations.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, thank you for being with us again. And I don't know if you noticed, but he's had his haircut since he was on last time. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
windy where he was last time, you couldn't tell.
No more man bun.
That's right. And that's like one of your big trademarks. I was surprised that you did that.
Yeah, it was. I was almost a little sad to do it. Actually, I had it going for quite a while. I don't know, maybe it's that little inner Viking in me that I like that. But we just thought, you've been doing this for a long time, and not that it sounds like I'm a little bit persuaded by social media, but I do get a lot of comments like, "Hey, man bun, how about cutting it now?"
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. So I just thought, you know what? If I don't like the new
You can
cut,
always grow it back.
I can grow it back.
That's true. Good
So
point.
let's just try something new.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us again. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I always enjoy speaking to you, and thank you for the support.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Lux Life Discovered.
Check out Lux Life Discovered on Facebook and Instagram and on 30a.tv. See you next time on Lux Life Discovered.